Hello, alchemists. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Ava, aka Queen Midas, Life Alchemist, and I have a special guest here for another episode of Tribe Talk. I have Joel Schaefer, everybody. Welcome, Joel Schaefer. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me. Really good to be on your show.
Yeah,
Good.
go ahead, go ahead. I'm just really excited to have you.
I know. Really good to connect with you. I love what you're doing, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you. So, can you tell the alchemists a little bit about you?
Totally. Yeah. I was fortunate to work with shamans from a really young age, like at 13 years old, and went through a lot of intense stuff and had really powerful, life-changing things happen just over and over and over. And I lived with old Native American shamans and female healers, old medicine women, and was on the reservations a lot, working with doing some really rare ceremonies, and I apprenticed some really unique people later on. Sort of uh, when I got much older, I found out that there was some really sober, clear people out there to talk to, and so I've just been sort of finding the most uniquely capable people. But my healer that I lived with in like Texas and stuff, she would help the police find missing children, and it was very like real, really unique, dynamic people. So a lot of them have passed on and whatnot, but yeah, just a crazy history. So I share about that a lot on my channel and interview people as well, like you do. So
Yeah. And Joel, what is your channel?
yeah, so it's called Perceiver, and yeah, there'll be notes for access to that on my when I share my info with you. So yeah, it's just a channel about awareness and lucidity, and um, I tell a lot of the kind of the stories I've been through and how they apply to like different ways of looking at things, and keep it kind of just I just kind of more of my musings, more of my concepts than anything. It's not super structured, just in the flow.
Yeah, and it's so cool. So your videos, they're typically shorter, right? They're just like you turn the camera on and you start talking as it comes. Yeah, so I really like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's there's no preparation, I'm just channeling what is up in the field in the moment, and it's a really good way for me to check in with where I'm at. Just by sharing, it forces us to sort of show up in a different way than we might, if we weren't putting ourselves in that opportunity.
Yeah, it's more authentic and vulnerable. That's great. Okay, so I watched one of your videos and well, there was a quote that you said, and it really stuck with me. And I think this is great for our audience to hear. So you said, the more programmed a person is, the more powerful insight we can gain from them. And I found that to be like so valuable, especially for people that consider themselves light workers, star seeds, black sheep, whatever, who are in this home or community or somewhere where they're feeling so different and like they can't relate to anyone and like, oh my God, let me get out of here and blah, 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 blah. And like essentially trying to escape the situation. And you like, this was just so beautiful what you said. Could you maybe expand a little bit more on that,
Yeah,
please?
totally. Yeah, it's been a breakthrough for me too. I spent a lot of my life trying to avoid all the programmed people and figure out how to protect myself and make sure I didn't have to have encounters with that that energy, or I felt offended by that type of representation, that the way in which people function in that level. But learning from the Toltecs, I realized that everybody is giving you a reflection, an opportunity to discover what, if something triggers you and it's hot for you, then that means there's something going on within you that would benefit from facing it. And so when you switch your mind on it and you walk towards these things rather than try and avoid them, then they're no longer scary. The monster in the closet isn't actually as scary as it seems. It's just because you're not opening the closet and facing it. And so people are perfectly set up for us in that respect. everybody's shaking in their boots. Everybody's scared of being exposed because our egos are fragile. We're all in transition. And so when you realize that and you stop being afraid of people just because they're so solid or so anchored to the matrix, you can ask them any questions, you can interact with them and build bridges with them. There's nothing to be afraid of. And when like I've had bosses that were full on tyrants that were just coming for me. They were going to expose me. They were going to, because they could sense my freedom. And so they wanted to challenge me more than anybody. But because I didn't care and I wasn't offended, I let them hang themselves and they exposed themselves.
Mhm.
It's almost like a way of handling all things in life, is just letting spirit guide it. Stop trying to control it or trying to make yourself. I mean, it's good to create protection around you and it's good to take care of your energy, but there comes a point where you don't not need to do that in the same way. You feel emboldened. You are no longer concerned with whether you lose the job or any of it because you trust that the universe will provide. And so you stop letting these normally socially limiting fears, especially around the matrix, they go away and the world starts teaching you everything you need to know. And yeah, the more dense somebody is, the more you start to actually have compassion for the fact that they're cut off from what you've experienced by connecting to the Earth Mother or by having, the ability to pray, the ability to feel so strongly, to be empathic. And so it's gratitude that we get to borrow from what they're teaching us. And at the same time, we get to really feel gratitude for how unique we are and that we're not as programmed. It's that comparison. It brings a lot of perspective.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I teach on my channel a lot. So I do a show on Saturdays called Self Work Saturdays, and I pull from the collective energies, just kind of see where we're at as a collective, like working through our shadow work, things to focus on, like that would be the most impactful. What do we need to know, and how is spirit helping us, just to, because so many people, especially nowadays, have questions about shadow work and they don't quite understand it and everything. So that's the basis of that show. And I teach people, when we start to have triggers, or there's some cycle that we like seem like we're, oh my God, I'm up against this again, or I'm meeting this person again, this energy again in a different avatar, like these things, it's like, stop and ask for the lesson in that. Like, what am I not seeing? Please illuminate the lesson to me. And I'm always like, y'all, make sure that you ask for the lesson with love and grace so that you're not getting your butt kicked like super, super hard,
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I started to do that, I felt it almost became like kind of a game, which sounds weird, but it almost kind of got exciting because I noticed I was like tackling things so much quicker and moving through, like you said, the monster in the closet wasn't as scary anymore because I like had clearer vision. And I wasn't just going in like with the blindfold, like, like swinging or like running the other direction. So yeah, it's about stepping into our power and our sovereignty, like reclaiming that and our divinity, and just connecting that divine portal to our earth portal, and just getting that full flow of energy, and reconnecting to our meat suit and our divinity, which is what is constantly attacked. And that disconnect is like the goal of the matrix. So it's, and I love that I love that you use the term the matrix so much, because it's like it to me, it just reminds me, like, yeah, like it keeps that in the forefront of my mind. Like, when little things pop up, it's like, this is literal programming right here. Like I don't have to let this affect me, and so that is really, I don't know, you put out some really valuable stuff, and it's like easily palatable. Like I guess is the way to put it. Like it's easy to digest the way that you put it out there. So I have a couple questions. Before I ask the questions, can you talk a little bit about what you do? Like, I know you said you work with your wife and she's been there through a lot of this journey with you. Could you talk about what you do, like how you use your training and you have like coaching that you do?
Yeah, totally. My wife and I at times will do online workshops or in-person workshops, sometimes in the wilderness, um, just connecting to the earth and doing very specific ancient movements out of Mexico that are really life-changing. They're really powerful and they move your perception a lot. So it's kind of like psychedelics, but it's not. And so it's more sustainable. You can do it whenever you want, but you do get very altered. So it's very incredible. It puts you in silence. And when I work with people as a mentor, I talk to their body, I talk to their whole being, and their being picks up on it and it starts to make changes. It starts to ask for the things that I'm talking to it about so that it's not just you having to think about it as a client. And so it's a totally different way of building a syntax, a new neural pathway for your body, your whole being, because we're not just mental. Our senses, our most intuitive part of ourself is in every chakra is when they're all aligned and everything's working well together and in harmony. And that includes the organs, because the organs, we're in a physical situation here, not entirely. It's we because we believe it's physical, therefore we're experiencing it as physical. Shamans learn to unlock that so that they can move in and out of the physical and get moments of relief from this physical world. But because we're not shamanic yet, we got to really take care of and communicate with have all of our organs talking to each other, or at least our cells, right? So this is just cellular well-being. So the movements allow your cells to reset. So I teach these movements. I talk to people. I help them through their life with their basic decisions, because the little decisions that you think are just like not as important actually have a lot of power. Everything that's going on in your life, we just assume, well, this is how it is, but we don't realize that our ego is keeping us limited to all the different, because it could be so different. We just don't realize. We don't even dare to even ask or wish for some of the things that we truly want. And so I help people get to their longing, get to admit to what they really are longing for, which takes you into your desire, which is opposite of discipline. It's not like you want to avoid your desire. You want to know your desires. And then realize, because that leads to a really taking good care of yourself eventually, because you really want to feel amazing, right? It's just that the shadow desires some sabotage, or it wants to control things so that you realize that it's being left behind. It's just trying to get its needs met. And that's a good thing. We want the shadow to come out through the desire process. So all of that seems scary for people, and they just want to like, no, I'm going to eat perfect. I'm going to do everything right, and everything's going to be okay as long as I'm super disciplined. That won't process all the emotions and all this stuff from the past. So we have to accept where we're at instead of trying to tell ourselves we're further along. And sometimes we're a lot further along than we realize, and we tell ourselves, well, I'm not far along at all. And that's both different kinds of the ego, the victor and the victim. Right? We're either victorious or we're a victim, where it's hard for us to stay neutral. We're either on top or we feel down low. And so I work with people just to get to that neutral place, and it's life-changing. So yeah, workshops like with my wife and I, that we kind of do this. We also work in teams with couples or with clients, because it can be nice to have both of our input at the same time during the same space that's held. So yeah, and then on top of that, I'm in construction management, so I do a lot of really badass stuff in the like old school traditional timber frames and European style architecture and stuff. And so I have a fun life for sure.
That is so awesome. Like I was telling you before, so we chatted last week, everybody, and I was just like, I think it's so cool that you're in construction. I took art history in college, and just that I've always been fascinated by old architecture and like the scale of it and everything. And now that I'm, we're just starting to come out more and more that's like, old past civilization stuff. And it's like, why is that same structure everywhere across the world? And, but I don't know. It just always was fascinating to me. So it's really cool that you get to work in that arena. And do you do you do like any of the actual hands-on stuff, or do you do like the blueprints, or I just want to talk about this for a second.
I I've gone in and out of all of it. So I've been in super upper management down into just, being in the field. I can't handle being in an office. So I run huge projects out in the field where mostly I'm telling everyone what to do, but often I get to get into it. I came into the industry all hands on, walking walls, really facing your death every day when you're doing some hardcore construction. It's a really empowering thing to get into. But yeah, now I'm in the middle management world where I get to be outside. I get to keep that intensity. We just hit a water main in this huge place, and it was just like,
Oh no.
30 of us had to like work so hard for like 11 hours just to like bring things back to balance. And it's kind of like going to war or something. It's bonding. You're all rising to the situation. So it's really empowering, and it's just a dream we're in. So it is a real situation, but if you don't have all this fear around it, then it's super psychedelic and it doesn't fuck up your nervous system.
Yeah. So this is just such a cool, I don't know, like a micro macro type of thing that you work with. So I love that you said you're facing your death every day, because it made me think about like ego death and what you do. And then the fact that you're in the matrix world, you work with construction and architecture, but then in your personal life, you're also doing that on an energetic scale, with people, helping to like restructure their architecture and everything. And that's just so cool. Like that connection just came to me. It's really interesting. You mentioned the like getting in touch with helping people to discover their desire. Is that similar or synonymous with like helping them discover their soul purpose or soul path? Because a lot of people want to know that.
Yeah, like, we come in with a dharma, with a very unique, everything happens for a reason, and so it's all designed. But and the forgetting that we go through is part of that process. So this is a beautiful thing, to have lost our purpose and to be seeking it. Yes, there was a time where a child was born and didn't lose their purpose because there was such a harmonious world in which they were raised in. But that created a different set of challenges. Our particular challenges that we've all kind of been MK Ultra'd by Hollywood and the news media and the way our parents were brought up and the social power structure, it made it hard to become aware. But a lot of people are waking up, and it's a really powerful thing. So yeah, it's I just lost topic. What was the original question?
It's totally okay. I asked about when you help people find their desire, does it help them? Is it the same as finding soul purpose or soul path?
Totally. So yeah, it's like desire so our chakra system is designed to have an ecstatic experience. Accepted a pretty, we try to reserve that for like sex or drugs. We don't really typically have ecstatic experiences all the time.
Yeah.
But we can, but it takes getting used to. Otherwise, you'd end up in a mental ward.
Yeah.
The shamans have figured out how to change their life slowly, carefully over time to start to have more and more ecstatic energy running through them. And they learned how to handle that. And they become very mature and sober in handling that. And so the shadow work is key. You don't want to try to skip the stuff. You know, it just, there's no way to skip anything. It will come back and expose itself. The sole purpose is actually what you're doing. Where you're at is your purpose, is to struggle, to remember. And then in that returning, that victorious return to the child, the inner child that finally gets to speak what it truly wants to say. Because that voice got repressed through addiction on some level, because when we were screaming and crying, our parents either gave us candy or they got us in trouble. They did something usually that would shut that down.
Wow. Yeah.
How do we get back to all that energy, all that primal feeling that we were feeling, and process it in a way that we can get it out of us because it got stuck? And so we get to move past stagnant energy eventually if we discover a pathway like the one I am on. All these movements move that stagnant energy. The breath work that I teach is very designed for that very thing. There's a type of dreaming, type of door you can open at night that moves stagnant energy so you can start to really remember everything. And this means going back to like 0 to 3 years old. Most of us don't remember because our perception was moving all over the place, and now it's fixed. So if we can go back to, if we can learn to use our memories, they open doors for like your memory muscle. The more you play with memory, the more you'll have access to even more memories that you forgot about. It's this weird sort of like, it's like you've raised your hand and somebody's calling on you because you asked, you started the process. And so the universe sees that you're doing it. So it's called recapitulation. And it will absolutely bring you to your deepest longing, which is often what we think we want our soul purpose to be, is based still on the MK Ultra Disneyland Matrix storyline. Or like, oh, I want to go back and live in the 1800s because I'm not in the right timeline. Or these are all real things that aren't, they're just the ego making excuses for the fact that everything's exactly as it needs to be for you right now. For everyone, it's perfect. Doesn't matter how crazy it is. Your avatar can handle it. You're in, you know, it's, or you can handle it. Your avatar is temporary. And so it's a necessary rite of passage. And yeah, we all have the ability to make a pilgrimage back to that which is going to activate our being on another level. Shamans say that there's another side to the coin, and that we are dark, mysterious creatures, and we've been reduced to behaving as if like we just take this all for granted. It's very mundane. People are scared of power.
Yeah.
So they've merged it into just social power, where money is power, but that's not power. Real power is really old, powerful energy that's still available.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love this conversation. Like you say so many things. I'm like writing notes. I'm like, we could be here like literally all day. So I heard you talk about, so this is kind of segueing into like magic, but the movements that you were talking about that you do on your retreats and your workshops, is it similar? I heard you talk about like qigong or like tai chi, like kind of similar to that, and how ancient indigenous cultures, tribes before us kind of laid that energetic pathway. So it's already there to tap into, like, correct me if I'm saying this wrong. You can tap into it by doing those same movements because the energy signature is still there. You just have to tap into the movement to access that power.
Exactly. It's so easy. It's already done for you. You just have to show up and do it.
Oh
And
my gosh.
it's really, really incredible. And so we're all connected. We're all one. This has already happened for us. All the love from the ancestry, you feel it. You're connected. You know, it's just a miracle. And yet, it's okay that it takes us a while to really get to gravitate towards these things. It's not. There's a natural barrier of fear that's healthy because you are going to shift your perception so much if you step into become really start to do things that really work.
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah, magic is so simple, and yet even for the Toltecs, it had to get really. They got into a realm of complexity with it, where the rituals got so complicated in order to protect it, in order to hide it, in order to because there was a time where you would be hunted if you were practicing these things,
Mhm.
and you would, and that was a real fear for shamans um to be burned at the stake, so to speak. Even though the reason they became so powerful was because they were being hunted.
Mm.
That's what taught them the things that now we can all learn about. But we were all pretty soft and domesticated because of the world we live in.
Yeah.
And so, but they figured out how to become daring and dreaming without having to be in in war. And so dreaming is not talked about that much. People are really they don't know how to stay conscious in their dreams. So they focus on the magic that happens through other means, which is great. I practice something called dreaming awake, where I'm just in heightened awareness so deeply that it's like everything is a dream, and
Mhm.
I'm just interacting here amongst everybody, and so it leads to very intense lucid dreaming if you spend enough time in an altered state during the daytime or during the awake hours. And you're going to learn how to make use of other tracks within dreaming at night. But so traditional magic, though, is so well. There's so many different types of of what people refer to as magic, and there's a lot of very powerful people that I've worked with, and some of them dabbled into some pretty crazy shit. And so you can get yourself into whatever it is. There's no good or bad in this world, truly. It's just there's consequences, though, and there's relationships and alignments and things. And so yeah, just innocence is really powerful. It'll get you through a lot. So we don't necessarily want to learn everything there is to learn. We want to keep some of our just natural innocence and guidance and trust, and know that we have a unique task. We don't need to be like anybody else.
Mhm.
Our real magic is our imagination. That's the I mag our imagination. We are, that's the inner magic.
Oh my gosh, I magi. Oh my gosh.
And so shamans spend decades training under sorcerers, thinking that they're learning all these details, but really all the teacher was doing was helping them return to simplicity and realize how much power they had just within their own thoughts or lack of thoughts. Stop talking to ourselves. We stop keeping inventory of our past. We stop upholding all this mental stuff, then we start to pay attention to just feelings. So the less you're thinking, the more you can feel.
Yeah.
And if you can learn to spend time in just feelings, then dreaming will start to happen. Dreaming awake and dreaming at night. Lucid, very lucid, intense, conscious experiences, which just makes you so thankful because it's so different than the norm. It's like a touch of magic. You've been relieved of the density and the heaviness of this matrix for a moment, and you're getting an aspect you're getting a taste of the active side of infinity, which will hook you. And so then you're hooked and you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. You now you have to walk the path, and it's okay because you're going to die anyways. So what does it matter? You might as well go after something incredible rather than play it safe. There is no playing it safe, right? So people have all these fears about going after the thing they want. It's going to change, but really that fear is only there because of that perception. And so once you go out of that, then the fear is gone and the doors are open. So fear is the first enemy of man. But it leads to clarity. Clarity is an enemy in that you can become caught in it and thinking that you know things. And then that self-righteousness can trap you. So you have to go out and have real experience where you go have difficult job or difficult situations and where you test your ability. And that's power. So that's the third enemy of man. And then old age is the final, because when you've really become powerful, you have this, and you reach your elder years, you feel this desire to rest. And if you start to rest and you don't use your power, then you will have been defeated by the fourth enemy. And so it's, the universe is constantly set it up to make sure that we are always challenged.
Yeah. That's incredible. Okay, so there's two more things that I would love to touch on.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about lucid dreaming? That was definitely something I wanted to talk about today. I don't know that I've really talked about it on my channel because I'm still learning how to, so I can't speak from like full-on experience. I think like a couple weeks ago though, I got to the point where I remembered looking at my hands in my dream. And sometimes there are times where I'm like, I wake up, I'm like, I like consciously chose to go that way or do like, so it's like there's snippets, but I have not that I remember being in like full control of the dream that I remember. So
Yeah.
what, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how to frame this question, but for someone who's on the journey or interested in learning how to continue their healing journey and implement lucid dreaming, or even start with that, what are some tips, some insight, guidance, whatever that you might have?
Yeah, no problem. It's just something so incredible that can happen so naturally just through being really happy. But to get happy in this world, when all the struggles, lucid dreaming can be a means of getting there too. So it can, breath work, conscious breathing right before you plan to go into your go down for the night, laying on your back and feeling and learning to feel like secure. A lot of people need to be on their stomach or on their side and feel more protected that way. But if you can learn to lay on your back and really just trust that space,
Yeah.
something happens. It sort of activates you.
It's a more vulnerable position too.
Yeah, it comes with, and that's sort of why I think it's so effective.
Huh.
But then if you send your heart, in theory, you push your heart through the ceiling up into the sky, up into as far as you can feel it go, and try to feel what's up there. Just try to feel what it would be like to have it way, way up there. And then try to have your just the idea that you would follow it. You try to then follow your heart afterwards. And that just the feelings that come up when you're doing that will start to introduce you to lucid feelings, lucid concepts.
Interesting. I've never heard it talked about that way.
Yeah, it's a weird trick that works very well. There's really powerful things we can do, like you could go into a closet, light a candle, and just stare at that candle in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Say the word intent over and over until it becomes like a part of you. And then you would go to sleep that night and just have the most crazy shit happen to you in your dreams.
Yeah. Wow.
But most people aren't going to do that. It's like, well, that's too intense, right? So it's not that there's not ways to do it. It's what's going to be the thing that's going to do that you're going to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, so we're not just you, but anyone. Like it's all about finding the thing that works for you. And so a lot of us already know how to do this stuff as kids, and we forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I practice like when light is reflecting on water and it's glittering.
Mm-hmm.
I will turn off my thoughts and literally put my awareness inside of that light, and I'll get totally healed. Right. So playing with allowing your perception to just be playful like a child.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to stop and feel things instead of being in go mode. This is what resets your being, and they're called not doings. Somehow we have to stop doing so that what we naturally are, which is dark, mysterious, abstract dreamers, would just start to happen. The movements I teach cause lucid dreaming to happen because they're designed for that. That's what makes them different than Tai Chi and Qigong, is that they're designed to unlock dreaming gates.
Okay.
There's so many, just setting the intention to become conscious in your dreams. So like most of us in our dreams, we're behaving as if it's a normal situation. We're just trying to, like someone stole our car and we think it's really happening. And we're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And get on the phone and the whole thing. And that's how our energy is being siphoned from us, is because we're just going along with these dramas at night that are being run. Those scripts are not our own.
Yeah.
Not alone in this magical world. There are forces that are making use of our unconsciousness. And so that's why it's hard to do real advanced dreaming, because there's a great deal of pressure to stay put, to remain slaves of perception, to not become free.
Yeah.
So those of us that go to make these changes have to understand it's going to take a lifetime. that we're going slow and steady, that we're not going to make some big waves and announce some big thing. This is about passion of ours to become aware. And it's so yeah, setting the intention, putting things around you that you really like, a book or the stones or the clothing or the colors, even though it may not be as efficient, getting all the things out in your home and putting them around your bed each night and then putting them back in the morning, like really going that extra distance if you really want it to set it up. And when we invest in ourselves, something incredible happens. The universe sees that, and then it gives you gifts for making that effort. But the greatest thing we can do is creatively and imaginatively discover something that we think would work, try it out, and realize that it does, because if you believe it does, then it does. So our intent is intent is a fleeting thing. It's not trying, it's not doing, it's something really powerful. And we're all here to have a relationship with that intent. It's outside of prayer. It's not something you can really pinpoint, but that's what it takes to do dreaming, is to develop a relationship with intent. So those are some basics in there, and also some really advanced concepts.
Yeah. Okay, I'm finishing a note real quick. Here's a question while I'm finishing this up. So when you mentioned, because I hear people asking this in response to some things that you've said. When you say that we are dark, mysterious beings, what do you mean by dark? Because I know that that's going to pop up. Like, what is that? Like, is that negative? Is that bad? Like, what?
Yeah, there's that misunderstanding that dark is separate from light. Everything is one. Everything's connected. The female is the void. The womb is the dark. So we are birthed from the darkness, the primordial dark, which is the most healing thing to return to, is to allow yourself to go into that inner cave and to become one and merge with the blackness of night. That's where your power is. Okay. It's in the middle of the wilderness, alone in the dark. You will be swallowed by silence, and darkness are the same thing. Right? So there's this idea that we have to, and it's functional for syntax to say, hey, we have to shine our light and and make sure we're aware of the dangers of the dark. And all of that is a way of talking, but we get to change and adjust and get more clear on how powerful we are, so that we don't isolate ourselves to limited ways of talking about ourselves, because the words we use are real because we speak them into being. And
spells.
Yeah. So what I mean that we're dark and mysterious too, we're very gifted in the mystery. We're very abstract. We know how to navigate energy. We don't need a manual. We're totally intuitive creatures, fierce people. And we need access to that anger. Our anger is our power. So all these ideas that light workers go through, there's stages of understanding. When you think, oh, that person's dark, they're bad. No, actually, they're just in pain, and they're teaching you. And you can be in so much gratitude that they've taken that contract so that you didn't have to. Like, that gratitude in everything, instead of it being dark. It's just is what it is. It's the collective shadow communicating its suffering so that we know what's occurring. these are the sounds, the voices of humanity echoing through our eternal timeline. We don't control that. We want to know the pulse of humanity.
Mhm.
So rather than resist, integrate everything,
Mhm.
and then it won't be scary.
Yeah, that's so valuable because I know there's, what is that word? Not spiritual entitlement or whatever, but like the people who want to only focus on light. Like we need the friction to cause soul evolution. How will we ever know? Like we can't get any better if we don't have the friction and we don't have that point where it's like, oh my gosh, what is this roadblock? Like why? And then we start to like look around it and up above it and poke it and tap it and see, understand the elements of it, or like strive to understand the element. We can't ever evolve as divine beings if we never have friction, if we don't have the bad players, if we don't I don't know, have the triggers, whatever it is, it's for our best and highest good. And I love what you said about anger too, how it's our power. Is that what you said? I in some of my readings, like I have a shadow healing deck, and there's sometimes it like irritation or like anger or something that seems like a red zone emotion comes up. And usually what I end up channeling, not always, but like that's awesome because it's energy, and it's powerful energy. Because if you think, usually people get freaking angry, it's either they suppress it or they're gonna explode. But that's freaking kinetic, like potential, or whatever however you want to call it. And we are the alchemists. We can transmute that and turn it into something positive or creative, or do art, or love someone even more, like, and it's like energy is not created or destroyed, it's transformed. That's all we have to do, is like take that, understand what the lesson is in there, and use our own power to shift that, and
Really?
this is just such a, like, you're talking, I'm like, yes. Like, this is such a badass conversation. This is like everything that is just wonderful to me. So and the information, like the insight that you're bringing forward, is so valuable, and it's empowering to the audience, because it's really, at the end of the day, your life is in your hands, period. Like your transformation, your attitude, your inner attitude, energy, the way that you're showing up in the world, those are choices. Like be present and be conscious in your life, like, and don't be on pilot mode. If you really actually want to move, I don't know, fully experience, your human experience here on earth, and learn and grow, like that's what we're here for. So
For sure. No, it's that simple, but it's that hard,
yeah.
to fully show up like that. And but yeah, when you stop blaming anyone else outside of you and you take full responsibility for everything,
Mhm.
oh my God, it's such a relief.
Mhm.
Stop being offended by the world. Is you stop blaming the patriarch, you stop blaming the government, you stop blaming the elite. This is the greatest story ever told. It couldn't get any better than this. It's got to have the war and all the stuff with it, all the Satanism. It's just part of the deal. Of course, these religions go into the most insane ritualistic. We're discovering what we are. It's the process of, Native Americans would cannibalize each other just to scare the shit out of the other tribe. We want to pretend that we're separate from all of this, but it's just a story that is going to lead us to knowing more and more about ourselves. So we say the universe is seeking to expand itself, and we are the energetic probes in which it is doing that with. right? So the universe is going to give you so much more support if you're forging new neural pathways, discovering and imagining and creating, not just for others, but for you. It's that inner work where the rewards from the universe really show up.
Oh, that's the perfect segue. Okay. So this is the last thing I want to talk about is karma. So that comes up a lot in my personal readings when I'm doing readings for people about wondering if how karma is going to be returned, when it's going to, like basically the whole like, is this person going to get this back or blah, 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 blah. And could you talk a little bit about karma and what it is, and then advice for like people who, because essentially it's like kind of wanting revenge or something when you're like, when is somebody going to get their karma for what they did? You know what I mean? So could you kind of talk about that, please? It comes up a lot.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, the greatest revenge is to live a good life and to let that person out of your field. And so if you're thinking about what's going to happen to them, that's keeping you from having that more expansive journey. So it's an anchor, which means there's something there for you to look at. So that's the shadow work. Why is that? And that's okay. We all have these similar attributes that we can relate to. But karma isn't as complicated or as out of our control as it may seem. If you personally want to balance your own, there's always opportunity. There's always, say you have some things that you feel that you wish you had done differently in your past. Mm-hmm. There are people right now outside of my home that I could go and do something for that would balance something for something I did to someone else. Mm-hmm. It's all the same, but it's the intention. And so we really don't have past and future lives. We have parallel, because everything is nonlinear. It's all happening all at once. And so whatever your storyline is, it's connected to someone else's and someone else's. And if they get strong, it's going to help you. And if you get strong, it's going to help them. And so we curse ourselves with these limitations that, I have all this bad karma, or, I hope so-and-so's karma comes back on, all of that stuff. When you're talking about someone else, you're actually talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are them. Because we all come from the same place. We are all these extensions of source. And when you finally realize this, not that you ever finally realize it, it happens in stages and waves. You start to realize how connected everything is. So dharma and karma is powerful. It's very much a really beautiful thing that helps us to sort of mark our passage through life. Because at a certain point we had our dharma, we knew what we were here to do, and then we got seduced by the social power, and we left our imagination to normalize, because we didn't want to be freaks that were still playing with energy as little. And that's good, because we would have probably not, it would have led to something challenging. People that don't develop socially struggle. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of schizophrenically diagnosed people that, had they been given a different situation, could have had the most incredible, fluid, lucid, functional life. But that wasn't meant to be, otherwise it would have happened that way.
Yeah.
So everything happens as it needs to. But it takes time to hear these concepts that we don't need to focus on others, because when we focus on ourselves, when we go inward and we face ourselves, something incredible really shifts within our idea of humanity, of reality. It can get really lonely when you really start having healthy boundaries and you stop trying to uphold these illusions. But karma is a very magical word, and it can be healed through the intent of discovering your dharma. So that's why they're linked. Your purpose is what drives you to bring balance to your life. So for Toltecs, at the end of their life, they're going and finding every person that they loved and giving them gifts. They're making amends with this world. They're paying all their debts to humanity, whatever that means. That doesn't mean they have to pay all their credit card bills, but it means that they really take the energetic debts that they owe, because it starts to weigh on you when you realize your awareness has the opportunity of doing something really unique before and when you die. And most people don't know about that. But Toltecs, because they become hypersensitive to it, their karma, they don't call it that, but their relationship with karma becomes it becomes their focus. And so it's called cleaning the island of your tonal. It's making room for the abstract to come in and flood your being. Because when we get old, we're meant to become more ethereal and light and more lucid, we're meant to become energy.
Mm-hmm.
But instead we look at that frailty as weakness. But it doesn't have to be. It could be so, with the right lifestyle, one could move into their elder years in a really beautiful, light, graceful way by accepting their limitations. Then there's no bitterness. You're not jaded. You're not wishing, because you lived a full life. So all these things, finding your dharma leads to your passion, which leads to this drive to bring balance, which makes it clear. The clarity comes in and you see how you can balance all the things from your past. And then you do this magical breath work called recapitulating, where you review your memories with a sweeping breath. And you are able to, through that art, you build this memory muscle, and then that gives you access to your child from zero to, all the way back to the womb. And when you have consciousness and and the memories of that inner child, then all these things just become really even more guided, and the pathway just keeps being presented. So sort of break free of the words, break free of karma, and just remake it what it is for you, your story, rather than try to figure out what's going on in other lifetimes. Really just take this one and work with all the details, because the shadow work, everything's here for us. It's not going away. It's exciting.
And it's about being present. Again, comes back to being present. And this is where we can make the most impactful change and difference.
Totally. I think it's timeless. If you can be really present, living in the now, then you stop feeling like time is, like, you become aware that you have that you're alive and that you don't get to be here forever. So you this incredible gratitude, but you also sort of like you're hanging out in such incredible feelings that it's like you've stopped time.
Yeah.
Your days are long and then your weeks are like long. And so I meet people that from high school and they're like, I can't believe how fast everything, we were just in high school. I'm like, I don't even know. That was so far long ago. They haven't changed. They're still thinking the same thoughts, listening to the same songs, doing the same patterns and habits. So they're in a very different space. So it's even more gratitude. I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky that I got to break away from that.
Mhm. Yeah. Awesome talk. Like, I'm gonna have to have you back on because
Yeah.
this has been amazing and super insightful. And this is like the first times that I've had someone come on and touch on a lot of these topics, like in more in depth, than I can go because you have the experience. But
Yeah.
this is really valuable. So thank you for being here, Joel. Where can the alchemists find you? What platforms are you on? And I'm going to link all of Joel's information in the description as well. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm Perceiver on YouTube and on Twitter. And then I'm under Joel Schaefer on Facebook and Instagram. And then I'll be leaving my email for anybody that is called to, do some online workshops, and some of them are free. So just if at any point anyone wants to get a taste of it, shoot me an email and I'll include you on the email blast that goes out when something's happening. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'll send you my contact stuff so that you have that.
okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. Like I've been like buzzing this whole time because it's just so cool, and more people need to know about this. And it's so important for again, for our healing on an energetic level, and just integrating our inner. Did you just see that orb? You saw that? Okay. Healing on our, connecting our energetic body to our physical body, and just, knowing that we're spiritual beings and physical vehicles. So really cool. Thank you. And do you have any last words or anything before I close out?
I'll just since if you're watching this today, pay a little extra attention to what it feels like when you're falling asleep. And it's that in-between space where you're still here, you're starting to go into that other layer. Try to hang out in the in-between for a while. It's a really healing space to be in, and you get just as much rest as if when you go all the way out. So your body gets the same restoration if you can hang out in that in-between, and it's really heals the nervous system, and we all need a little of that. So
Ooh, thank you. All right, you all. Well, you are sovereign, powerful, worthy, and loved. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And you all check out Joel follow him on his platforms, whatever platforms you are on. If you feel called to reach out to him to join his newsletter, or work with him on his workshops or in his workshops and stuff, please reach out. And yeah, we will see you later. Take care.
bye. Take care.
Bye.